Popeye the Sailor Man, a cartoon comic book character invented in 1929 by a cartoonist, L.Z. Chrysler Segar. He was introduced as a new character in an ongoing newspaper comic book series called the Timble Theater. Popeye the Sailor Man was then to be followed by numerous other characters which enlarged his family of characters. That would include his arch nemesis Blotto, Popeye's father called Popeduck Pappy, Popeye's girlfriend Olive Oil, Popeye's adoptive son, a little baby called Sweet Pea, Popeye's best friend Wimpy, a man who can eat a great deal of burgers, and he's always asking his friend to borrow money to buy some burgers. And then, of course, other enemies of Popeye, such as the Sea Hag, a witch, who is also one of the known opponents of Popeye, and then numerous other characters. Olive Oil, who has a brother called the Castor Oil, and so forth. But to get things started with the actual toy line that came about 2001, made by Mezco, this line was to represent some of the characters, obviously including Popeye and Blotto as the ones who were the most present, and then some of the supporting characters. Unfortunately, this particular line does not include all the known characters from Popeye comics and or cartoons. It includes only a particular few. The line lasted for a couple of waves. Popeye and Blotto in particular received several repaints and several variants as well. Olive Oil and Sweet Pea got some color variants themselves. So let's take a look at some of them that I have here in front. We will start with Popeye, the main character of the story, also a subject of numerous cartoons and comics over the decades. So Popeye here is presented in his classic sailor suit, although he is known to wear variations, color variations of this particular costume. And his headgear would sometimes be just a hat or a sailor's hat. And of course he would usually smoke his pipe that's made of that's carved out of corn or corn cob. So these figures were not meant to be highly articulated like, let's say, Marvel Legends, who were roughly showing up around the same time back in the day. They were mostly focused on the idea of the sculpts, which were pretty accurate to the comics and the cartoons. So what Popeye's articulation mostly consists of a few points of articulation, so not that many. His neck and the head could move backward and forward. The head can move all the way left and all the way right. The hat is removable. The arms could be moved slightly up. His arm here is a little bit tight, so I don't want to force it. I'm afraid that it might break. Then he has articulation in the wrist, so 360 degrees. And then articulation in the hand, so he can open it in order to grab one of the accessories that came with him. Then he has a waistline, spring-loaded waistline, so he can do the punch. And this is pretty much reminiscent of the vintage 80s Masters of the Universe figures. And then the final articulation would be in the legs. Excuse me. So his legs would move about this much forward, and then about that much backwards. He came with a couple of accessories. Most of these figures actually did come with some accessories. In his case, he came with, for example, a can of spinach, which looks squished because he would always squish it hard to open it without a can opener, and sometimes he would use his pipe in the cartoons to just open it up that way. And then we have the spinach here. For those of you who are not familiar, when he eats the spinach, that's what gives him his strength to face Blotto and other bad guys. So usually what I would do, I would put that can of spinach for him to hold specifically in his right arm, which seems to have the best grip. Whoops. The best grip for it. It just needs to be arranged a bit because there is a part of the can that he can hold. So there it is. He's ready to have some spinach. Other accessories that came with the figures would be this buried treasure. I have two of them actually. So there is another one right there. And it can be opened. So when you open the treasure, ta-da, you get the golden coins, and of course you get a golden can of spinach, which pretty much looks the same as the other one, except the color of the can is gold rather than silvery version. And then there is a spot here to just pop it right back in. Then other accessories that came with different figures would be, let's say, this jaw of a shark that's articulated, so it can be open all the way like so. It almost looks like a bear trap, or it could be used as one. Then we have a telescope that Popeye would carry on his long sea voyages. Then you can see a sculpted eye of his peeking through it. Then we come with some funnier looking accessories, which would be this angry looking sea star. Then we have the octopus, also quite an angry looking one. And then we have an anchor made of a very light plastic. And then we have a steering wheel of the ship. So there would be some other pieces that would come with some other figures that you could at least make the floor for the steering wheel, kind of mimicking a portion of the Popeye's boat. So that would be another piece there. And then we have a small accessory. The smallest one among them would be this muscle attachment for Popeye. It has a picture of warship on it, which usually is indicated in the cartoons when Popeye eats the spinach, and then his muscles show an image of a warship or a tank, stating that that's how strong his muscles have gotten after eating that can of spinach. So it can be attached to the left or the right arm. Unfortunately, only one muscle attachment came per figure. So there we go, how that would roughly look like. So there we go, it looks like his muscles are all pumped up. And it looks better on the other arm actually. So let's just pop it right there. There we go. There it is. It's easy to lose piece, unfortunately, because it's so tiny. But anyway, so aside from this version of Popeye, as I mentioned earlier, there were many other repaints and some of the actual clothing variants, so some of his costumes would look a bit different. There is such a figure as Deep Sea Popeye, but most of them would utilize the same figure or the same body mold. So here we have another variation of Popeye. So the main difference between these two Popeyes is the color of the costume. So the hat is the different color, the pants, and even his sailor shirt as well. But the accessories would usually be the same, at least when it comes to the identical figures, such as these. But the main difference would be mostly with the different attire Popeye figures, because they would come with different accessories. So that would be the two Popeye figures that I have. I don't have a complete collection of these figures, I only have a few. Now, you're wondering, this is probably Popeye when he got old, but actually, no, it's not. Although he is related to Popeye, this is his dad. His name being Poop Dak Pappy. I know his name sounds quite funny, though. I do remember seeing him in the comics, and sometimes in the cartoons as well when I was a kid. I was always a big fan of Popeye, even when I was just a boy, a little boy. So the figure is pretty much the same mold and everything. Now, of course, the main difference being the face. and of course the color of the clothes he's wearing. He's also smoking a pipe, and that pipe can be removed, so can the hat. Same articulation as the Popeye over there. And there is a character that's also related to Popeye and to his father, but unfortunately did not make it into an action figure form. And that would be Popeye's grandmother, who is also the mother of Pappy here, and her name is Butterfly Poop Duck. She is the grandmother of Popeye on his father's side. I wish they made her as well. That would have been nice, but unfortunately it wasn't meant to be. So Poop Duck here comes with a swing where he can sleep and rest. So I'll just try and position him so that he can fit right there. There we go. So that's how it looks. It's made of about 4 pieces that you just get to put together. Nothing major there, but it's a nice piece, and I'm glad they were able to include that with his figure. So that's how it looks. There he goes resting after a long day. And according to some comics I read, Pappy doesn't seem to like spinach like his son does. He's quite the opposite, it seems. So, going back to the remaining figures I want to talk to you guys about would be Olive Oil, the girlfriend of Popeye. Now, as you can tell, over there, while she was standing in the background, she's much taller than Popeye. And this is roughly their size comparison. Even in the comics and the cartoon, she always looked a bit taller than him, or quite a bit taller, I would say. And her body is mostly very thin, and she's quite tall, as I mentioned, and she has very spindly looking arms and legs. And her name is Olive Oil, which is of course indicating like she's named after an olive oil, with just a spelling difference in her name. Her articulation is not really present because it was rather replaced with a bendable body so that the arms and legs can bend. She is wearing a dress made of cloth. She comes with some accessories, like this handbag that has a little daisy flower on it for a button. Then her feet look quite large. She's wearing shoes, and this is her usual attire in the cartoon and the comics, and she comes with a hat. Now, usually she's portrayed without a hat that I can recall in the comics or the cartoons, but I suppose every now and then she does wear one. And this one, of course, has a daisy flower on it, and it is removable. There is another piece of accessory she came with, and I'll show you that in a minute. Now, this accessory is just a picture frame, and on one side it has a picture of Popeye, and the frame is shaped like a heart. And then on the other side is the picture of Blotto. In the cartoons in particular, and in the comics, sometimes she would practically try to get the both guys interested to fight for her and whatnot, trying to seek attention and see which one of them truly loves her and so forth. So this is a sort of a neat touch. The frame cannot really move. I thought it could sort of swing back and forth, but it cannot. It's a solid piece. And then the last figurine that came with Olive is Sweet Pea, little baby boy who is an adoptive son of Popeye, according to one of the old comics I read. And Popeye has been raising him as his own ever since. Sweet Pea has been portrayed in different ways over the decades in the comics. Sometimes he's just obviously an ordinary baby, just gobbling and getting into all sorts of little mischiefs. And in later comics, I believe from about 70s or 80s, he already knows how to talk, and he is very vocal, and again tries to play tricks on Popeye and getting himself into trouble every now and then. So this is a very nice figurine. It's a one-piece figurine, so there is no articulation on it whatsoever. The hat is not removable because Sweet Pea would usually be portrayed wearing a little hat, and on some occasions he's not really wearing any, so it all depends. he did come in a color variation that I know of, in the blue clothes rather than red. And of course, Olive Oil herself came in a color variation or a repaint, where the colors are quite different. But the figurines, both of the figurines, even though they were released as repaints in another wave, they still look exactly the same and with the same accessories and everything, just a different color scheme. So he's a nice touch to have. I'm really happy about him being released as well. I just do wish he had at least a little bit of articulation so he could turn his head at least, but it's okay, I guess. He still looks great in my opinion, and I'm happy to have him. I'm missing a couple of characters that were also released in this line, and I'm missing some Popeye and Blato variations. I am missing, for example, the Sea Hag, who is the enemy of Popeye, aside from Blato, and I'm missing Alice the Goon, a character who is a member of some tribe that Sea Hag enslaved, and then Popeye helped her, helped that character to free her tribe from the influence of Sea Hag. So Alice the Goon, from what I understand, is a harder to get character for some reason, and she's not that easy to come by. But other than that, the only other character I can think of that I am missing would be Wimpy, the fellow who likes burgers a great deal, and he came packaged with Eugene the Jeep, a strange little magical creature that befriended Popeye on one of his adventures. And that's about it. But in another video, I would like to show you the figures of Blato, the arch nemesis of Popeye that I have from this same line. I will show you the 3 different ones that I have of him. And that would be that, at least regarding my Mezco Popeye toy line. I would just like to mention in closing that there is a new Popeye the Sailor action figure line in a much larger scale and much more detailed these days, available for specifically the collectors. I still prefer this line. I've seen the picture of that other line that's already present in collector stores, but I still like this particular one more because it's much closer to the source material in the sense of looking like they literally stepped out of the pages of a Popeye comic book. So anyway, that is all for now, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time with another new video. Bye.